So welcome to the second hour of Mindshifters Radio, and today is Monday, July the 28th, 2025. And we're glad that you're with us. And so, welcome, Michael. Do you want to address that on this show?
Thank you, dear heart, and welcome. Not at this moment.
Okay.
Welcome, Susan, and welcome, Celinda. We haven't seen you in a while. How do each of you be? Anything exciting on your minds? Susan? What's exciting in your...
Well, I've had a kind of a breakthrough. I talked about it to Dr. Tim, but there's another element about it having to do with addiction. And at some point, I'd love to talk to you about that.
Let's go for it.
Well, I was in AA for Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, but I was not a sex addict. I just molded myself into that group because it was the only one local and available, and there was no internet group at the time. And I left that group after 6 years of going once or twice a week. So it was very fruitful, but it was also complicated because I noticed that it was mostly men, and often they would tell rather graphic stories, which made me wonder if they weren't getting a hit just by telling the story.
Good chance.
Yeah, and I've been going through my journals, and I wrote in great detail when I had an attachment to somebody, and they were always very similar. I picked them very carefully. I pick people who are loving, but also toward me, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about them. They seem to be loving, but then there can be a coldness, a sudden distancing. And those were the people that I would get hooked by. It's as if I was trying to make sure they were really there. If I knew they were really there, it became a friendship, and an unhooked, healthy, unhooked in the bad sense, very healthy relationship. So I really knew how to pick them. Talk about matching bags of garbage or whatever it was, an intuitive sense that this person will fit the script that I'm trying to work out. And it happened over and over and over again.
Right.
But in my journals, this is where I'm finally getting to the point. In my journals, I wrote, because there was great hope and energy connected to each of the people that I was focused on, I would write in the journal in great detail about little things that we said to each other or did together that might not mean anything to them or anyone else, but to me, it was a way of getting something that I realized I was trying to get that endorphin rush. I was even reading these accounts, and they're really quite terrific, but I don't know if anybody else would think so. But even rereading them, I go right back to how I felt. I can feel my heart burn with affection and the wish to be liked. It's always the same scene. And I'm thinking, okay, what am I doing? I'm doing this review of my journals, and I'm probably doing something. I'm acting like an addict, getting a hit. So I'm wondering if I should give up the project.
Oh, my offering would be, it sounds to me like you're going back to the unresolved issues that, here's your next opportunity. Here's a chance to finish that issue.
I hope that's true. Not sure.
That
But
would be my take.
okay, so anyway, I'm just in a discerning process, but somehow, it's all connected, Michael. The tools, you say all of the above, that's what's happening. The tool I need pops in and sets itself up. And it might go right for the central part of your wake-up sheet was, how am I doing that thing which I don't like that I think they're doing? How am I doing that? This is a big one, especially with serious triggers. So it's been exciting and fun And somehow in just doing it, there is maybe I'm fooling myself, but I think I'm getting better, healthier, more independent, more self-sufficient in the best way, not detached, better able to connect in a healthy way, actually. So
Right. Well,
anyway,
and you've developed this skill. I look back at, say, some of the things you went through with the grandkids and such, and you've really developed this skill to really keep keyed into that presence of love, and that's the great, you know, solvent that
mhm.
dissolves whatever's under the surface. And if there's something that is not yet resolved and love is present, just looking at it is going to begin its dissolution.
Well, with the grandkids, it's easy because there's an what do they call it? The kind of inhibition, like for instance, I would not go to bed with my brother. There's an incest taboo. That's what it is. There's an
Right.
incest taboo that, thank God, is, I think, alive and well in my system. So that the love I feel for my grandkids can be as powerful as anything, but it's a safe, good love, a constructive love, a healthy love. Whereas for the people on the outside, and I'm noticing in one particular case, it was a curate in our church who I developed this incredible crush on, which crush is such a demeaning word. I should really say that I saw something in him. He was so much like, he could have been my brother, but he wasn't my brother. But there was something so familiar about him to me, and yet no incest taboo because he really wasn't connected. Man, I fell hard for this guy. And he's a priest and he was a married priest and I was a married person. And I had no desire to mess anything up that I knew and loved and valued at home. So I just had to watch this. And when I was very involved with the church, acolyting a lot. It was a high church. So there were three sacred ministers at the altar for the high mass. And one of them could be a layperson. And it was very often me. And it's choreographed.
Right.
All three are wearing the sacred garments. I was wearing a chasuble, I think, what you call it, or a tunicle, I don't know which. We would it was almost like a slow dance, and there was great beauty in it and safety in it because it was all already laid out. You didn't interact with the priest up there except on a very subtle level, like if you needed to move the gospel book from the left to the right of the altar and somebody saw you weren't doing it, they might give you a hairy eyeball. I mean, they were that kind of interactions, but it was protected. And the whole church situation made it a lot safer for me to have
Safe space.
what?
A safe space, you mean?
Yeah, safe space. Um, but I kept a lot of journal and drew cartoons and oh my God, there was a tremendous amount of it. It's part of my creativity, and that's what I'm thinking about too, is how the shadow is a rich resource. It's not bad stuff, it's just stuff. And a lot of it is worth mining for life, if you can get it to behave and come out in the open. Anyway, it's been a rich time of just using the tools and noticing any kind of upset is my garbage, all of it, without question, and to become
Right.
detached. Anyway, I'm just going on and on now, but thanks. It's been a really exciting time, but I was wondering if I should stop working on these journals because there's a great deal of excitement and energy in them, which I hope is all good. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my first piece of feedback at this point would be when I'm speaking about love, I'm not speaking about the word you're using or
Yeah.
the definition you're using when you talk about
Mhm.
your grandkids and you love them. My offering would be what I hear you talking about with your grandkids is you have this deep affection, this deep cherishing of them, and that's not love. Again, we're back. We've had this conversation many times about what love is. When I acknowledged you and the advances you've made in doing your work, is your ability to hold your human life, love present in your mind while you review those things that are unresolved. I'm not talking about the world's definition of love that I know you don't like, that I want to change that, but so what I'm acknowledging is that I get that you and the work you've done have strengthened your ability to keep your human life present in your physiology, whatever's going on. That's
That
what I
is
was acknowledging.
that is such a good compliment. I hope that's true. I appreciate it. I did have a good friend once who said to me, "Look, Sue, you may have powerful feelings all over the place, but you have never, as far as I've seen, been inappropriate or crossed lines. You've always honored and respected the other person as separate from you in their own right, and that you've been careful about that." And that's sort of in one way what you're saying, which I appreciate very much.
Well, no, I don't think that is quite what I'm saying. What I hear
Okay.
you referring to in that acknowledgement is your behavior. I'm not talking about your behavior. I'm talking about your presence
Oh,
as
okay.
a human being in your own physiology,
Mm,
rather than what most people do when hostility and fear and greed and grief and whatever it is comes up. They lose their presence. They lose awareness of themselves as human beings to whatever that false self is. And so my offering and my take would be absolutely continue with your journals, because in holding, remember the one thing about this human life that we have, this presence of being, this real meaning of the word love, is that it's the master solvent. So go through any unresolved issue, past, present, or future, that's in your physiology, and the great dissolver of trauma, the active presence of your human life, is going to take you to the next level with all of those things. So I would, my take would be yes, carry on. That's the whole idea.
okay. Well, that's wonderful to have that permission. And I have to say, with you and Jeanie, I can't use the word love, but just put another word in there. But you and Jeanie mean so much to me. And it's one of the, among many things, I mean, it's been rich in all the stuff we've learned, but it's also that I feel safe with you guys. I feel as if I could pretty much say about anything, and you would find a way not to throw me out for saying it.
Yeah. We're here to be the space and to do our own work.
That too.
Absolutely.
That's
So if you
wonderful
bring up
too.
something less than love in me, I'm going to do my work around it.
Yeah, that's great. Mm.
And
So how
so
are you
if
doing,
there if
Michael?
there are if there are more things to go through, then it's from the journals. Absolutely, that's a treasure. Most people don't have that to go back through their past and reveal to themselves the self they've forgotten.
Well,
I think it's
and
an awesome gift to give yourself.
and to see patterns, to see where it's impersonal, personal though it felt, and it was. Each person was worthy of being cared for, appreciated. I'm careful not to use the word love, Michael. Snort, snort. But um, they all deserved it, I think. I picked good ones, as I've said before.
Yeah.
But there was
Well,
a
good
pattern.
ones pick good ones.
There was a pattern, though, of need and unresolved stuff that showed up when they showed up. And
Well, that
that's,
would be excuse me, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I'm done.
Well, you remember how often we speak about becoming a thinker apart from the thought, the actor
Yeah,
apart from the actions, the feeler apart from the feelings. And,
right.
with having this treasure trove of things that you've been through that you've written about in such detail, to me, that just the fact that you can go back through that enhances your ability to do exactly that, to be the thinker apart from the thoughts, and therefore to work through those patterns and those issues.
Mm,
You have a record of it where most people have just blotted it out and gotten rid of it.
right.
That's
Mm-hmm.
pretty awesome.
Mm. Well, good. Thanks.
It is good. Yeah, I'd say it's right on. I think it's, the fact that you had the discipline to do that is quite a treasure.
Well, it was also a need. It was an overflow. I didn't know what to do with what I was feeling. So a lot of it went, much too much went on paper. And 1,500 pages of typed material, and that is not even a fraction of how much I'm not putting into the journals. And of course, who wants to read all that stuff? So this is a big assignment, just cutting it down to whatever might be interested in it, and maybe nobody ever. I don't know. Anyway, I wanted
But
to ask
doing
you.
your work is what's precious. Doing your
Yeah,
work around it, being able to revisit it now that you've got tools, to me is awesome.
well, it's great to have the tools.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that one.
yeah. How are you doing, Michael? I know I'm switching gears, but I've been meaning to ask you how you're doing
I'm
because
doing
you
well.
good.
I actually just minutes before the radio show started, I just finished doing the fourth and most intense session of a quantum still point 5-day series that I'm doing with someone.
I know the someone,
Yeah. And so
so it went well.
it powerful. It was
Mm-hmm.
interesting. One of the, when I was out in Kansas City visiting with my son and my new grandson, who's my namesake, I did a quantum still point session on him,
Wow. Yeah, you
and,
said that.
and his mom was there, and we videoed it. And so I actually shared that with her before we did her session. I shared that video. It was just like
Mm,
4 or 5 minutes of it,
mm,
and it was interesting that as she was watching it, I couldn't see the screen. She had my phone in her hand
I
watching
see.
it, but in the presence of it, and his mother and I were having some very little bit, but a little conversation, and he was making sounds in response to the quantum still point energy, and that opened a whole restriction in my own structure that as I'm sitting listening to it, listening to the sound of it but not seeing the screen, and she's watching it, that I had to go in and do some work on myself with that. So
Oh, wow.
it's just to me the preciousness and the beauty of things that just keep opening and opening and moving and opening, just
Mm,
awesome.
wow.
And this
That's
morning
great.
I had a particularly deep still point session prior, this morning, and spent quite a bit of time in that. And another level, something I do often, is extend healing energy and support to a certain person that you sometimes bring up on the show, or when we talk privately, you bring it up, that gives you opportunities to learn forgiveness. And I felt like I got to a whole new depth of being able to hold that individual and his um, cadre of people in the space of love. So that was kind of cool this morning
Great.
for me. Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
So we're rocking along.
Oh, good. Thank you, Michael.
It is good. We are blessed.
We have a phrase that I use on the grandkids. I say, I could absolutely mush you, which is sort of like,
Devour you.
yeah, sort of
Yeah.
a big hug. And I'm giving you one of those too. And I hope that's appropriate.
Open and accepting and receiving it. Absolutely appropriate. Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Michael Ryce, can you test?
You're here, Zach. How are you?
That's right. Hello, hello. Thank you for having me on. Question about canceling goals with your Aramaic work forgiveness sheets. Can you
Okay.
can you elaborate on that a little bit? Sometimes I'm going through them, and I stumble on that bit there sometimes.
Right. I certainly understand stumbling on that because, gee, I have this perfectly wonderful goal that is a reasonable goal to have and the kind of a goal that everybody should have for themselves and everybody else all the time. So why would I do such a silly thing as cancel that perfectly good goal? That's a really valid question. And here's the reason. I don't, well, let's back up a little bit. There's some Harvard research that says that in a time frame where we can measure the firing of approximately 10,000 brain cells, it's a time period of about a 25th of a second. You can fire or measure 10,000 brain cells firing. That in that time frame, they determined that the max amount of data that goes into conscious awareness in that time frame is 9 bits. The awareness, the perceptual construct of the mind, is made up of a maximum of 9 bits of 10,000 brain cells firing, 9 bits of data. So we're seeing this little tiny framework. Imagine that 5 of us enter a room and an event happens, and that event is something that everybody agrees is terrible, awful, crazy, disgusting, illegal, immoral, whatever we want to call it. Everybody agrees that. And each person in the room has a different reality about that event. One person maybe wants to puke, one person's enraged, one person's in grief, and one person wants to just run away. If the event were the cause of what happens in each of those minds would have the same response or the same reality about that event. But they don't. Why don't they? 2 reasons. One, they each have different content in their minds. And 2, they each have different goals in their minds. Now, when you realize that in that event, again, 10,000 brain cells are firing, 9 bits of data are available, something obviously must determine which 9 bits of data the mind is using to produce its perception, to produce its constructs. What causes the mind to use this data instead of that? In this circumstance, why isn't my mind selecting happy data instead of angry data or sad data or fearful data? Our goals are the recruiter. They're the thing that determine which 9 bits of data the mind uses in any given instant. So think about the football recruiter. He goes out to, all the high schools in the city looking for the football player that has the qualities that they want. So this recruiter picks certain players to come back and try out for the pro team. Our goals are the recruiter that determine what in our mind of the depth of information that's in our minds, what's going to become an energy that comprises my perception at this moment, my mind's construct. Is it angry, sad, happy, whatever? So think of the goal as the recruiter.
Is this our cognitive goals, or are these the latent goals from our, dare I say, our
Yes.
bloodline?
Yes. Absolutely.
The cognitive ones in our noggin.
The cognitive ones and the ones that are latent, whatever the goal is. Oftentimes
Both.
people have no concept of what their goal really is. It takes some searching to look under the surface for what the goal really is.
So you're saying both carbon
All of the above.
carbon-based memory, all right, all the
Yeah.
D, all the above.
Yeah, whatever the active goal. So I just to refine that and why it's important to make sure that you key into what the goal truly is. So I've got a situation and somebody disses me. And I say, well, what I really wanted was for them to honor me. That's my goal. And I do that worksheet and, doesn't produce much of a result. Why not? Because that may be what my cognitive goal is, but the underlying goal was really that I wanted them to see me as important and value my opinion. That underlying or unconscious goal that's really the recruiter for this pained content that I have around my interaction with them is the real goal that's going to produce healing for me, not the one of I just wanted them to honor me. So oftentimes people will do many worksheets around a given issue till they get to the real core goal that's going on. But again, I want this person to honor me. That's a reasonable thing. I think it's reasonable for me to want everybody to honor me all the time. So why would I cancel such a wonderful goal? I don't cancel it because I don't want it. I don't cancel it because I don't need it. I cancel it because I recognize that when I load that goal in my mind, it recruits my corrupt data, my pained perception. And that's where my healing lies. And I need to touch into what's beneath the surface of that. And the way that I do that, remember, Shakespeare said, my words fly up, my thoughts remain below. I say words about my pain, but what's really going on is unconscious. When I cancel the goal, the recruiter, the end result, perception, the pained construct of my mind collapses. And when that collapses, it collapses in on its own footprint. Now I have access to what the unconscious, hidden part of my mind that's in need of healing holds. Remember, Carl Jung says, until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct our lives and we will call it fate. Our corrupt data, our pained data, if there's a mass of it, runs our lives, draws to us circumstances, draws us into circumstances. So I don't cancel the goal because I don't need it or don't want it. I cancel the goal because I recognize that when I load it in my mind, it brings forward corrupt data in my mind that I need to heal.
So if you're unclear what your unconscious goals are, that this is more an attempt to see what emotions are being fired underneath the hood, if you will.
Yeah. And becoming conscious of my own thoughts, becoming conscious of what I've denied and dissociated from. Remember, denial in this work is the act of thinking or speaking as though something outside of me is the cause of what's moving inside of me. So if I say, you made me mad, what I know when somebody says to me, well, Bill really made me mad, what I know is that this guy has got, or this gal has got unconscious rage, and they live in a world of blame. They've dissociated from the content of their own minds, and they think everybody else is the problem in their lives. What I'm going to invite that person to do is look at the goal they held for Bill, cancel that goal, and perhaps for the first time in their life, they're going to be introduced to their own unconscious mind, because the conscious construct of the mind, what I call my reality, my perception, has collapsed in on its own footprint. Now I've made my own unconscious conscious. If I'm really tapped into the real goal that's running the system at this point, that's doing the recruiting, I cancel that. That's going to put me directly in touch with what's hidden in my own unconscious.
I think
And
vocabulary might be. Oh, sorry, I interjected. I think vocabulary might be hurting me in this instance. So the word goal, I think, is too loaded. So let's use the example. You're saying Debbie got angry at Bill. Debbie has latent. You're using the word goal to latent energy, latent emotions. That's on the same wavelength, kind of what I'm hearing when you say the word goal, and that she has to deal with that. And by canceling,
Well,
go
my
ahead.
take is in that circumstance, Debbie has anger issues that she needs to work through. And as long as she keeps blaming Bill for her anger, she's never going to work through her anger issues. But when she realizes the goal that she loads in her mind for Bill and cancels that goal, then that whole construct where she's taken her anger and made pictures of Bill out of it, that whole construct is going to collapse in on its own footprint. And perhaps for the first time in her life, she's going to have direct access to the energetic patterns in herself that creates her anger. And when she does that, doing step 4 in the worksheet, bringing love present, then canceling the goal that was identified, and step 3, she's going to come face to face with what's in her own unconscious. And when love is present and we come face to face with what's in our own unconscious, then what's in our unconscious begins to dissolve. And it's that dissolution that is forgiveness.
Can I throw something in?
Please do, Jeanie.
There is we call it a 7-step current short form that's on the website, and it has a second part to the goal. So like the goal might be for them to be kind. And then the second step, it says, so that I can. So if I wanted them to be kind so that I can feel accepted or feel honored or something like that, that might help you go a little deeper in the goal as well.
Abbreviated 7-step. All right.
No, it's called short form. I put a link. If you can see the chat room, I put a link to it.
There's a quick form, short form. All right, I'll jump to that.
The abbreviated also has it in it, but this is the reality management 7-step current short form.
Yeah, I imagine.
So I'm identifying in that particular worksheet, I'm identifying 2 levels of goals.
Yeah, and I think I was stumbling on the word, using the word goal too much. I'm trying to look for a drop-in replacement word. Sometimes you have to use different words to get the right meaning, if you will.
Yeah. Don't think you're going to find a better word. I've spent 50 years working on it. And I've had people go, well, it's my intentions. It's what it is, what drives the mind. It's like you put the key in the ignition and the car runs. You can change the name of the key, but unless you got the key in your hand, the car isn't going to run. And you can try to change the name of goal, but it's if I want a particular outcome in a situation, that's a goal. Now, people may have many intentions. There are people out there writing books on the power of intention. Intention has no power. Intention is just raw material. So if people try to change the word goal to intention, then they can go off into all kinds of rabbit trails. But in the last analysis, what turns an intention into a goal? I make a commitment to it. This is what I want. This is what either I want to accomplish for myself or what I want someone else to accomplish for me. And the only word I know that fits that in every circumstance is a goal.
Okay. That answers question number 1. And then I'm going to throw in something, not to say you said this before, but in one of your YouTubes, you've said you have to bring your mind to the when the original act. Say it again.
Yeah. To the place where the error occurred.
The original error occurred, and I'm gonna ad hoc say whether it was in your life or prior. So all diseasing.
Yep.
So this in the 7-step PDF really is kind of get you to the point where you can look at where those are at. Is there another? Again, I'm asking you, spoon feed me here. Do you have another worksheet that goes into looking at each one of those latent goals that are may be present? I guess
Well,
perhaps.
the idea of canceling the goal is to become aware of what's hidden under the surface. I mean, think about an iceberg. I have 10,000 brain cells firing. And if I'm in hostility or fear, a significant amount of that is corrupt data. And I'm only looking at the tip of the iceberg. I'm only looking at 9 bits of data, and I'm going, look, Bill, no, no, no. See, look at this. And I'm not looking at where the real pain is being generated is in my own unconscious, which is in my own physiology. So it always amazes me over the years of doing, and I've done worksheets with I don't know how many people, but each time someone cancels a goal, the next memory that comes up is just mind-boggling. And if you let yourself get quiet and you're doing the process in writing, you cancel that goal and just pay attention. That again, you know, a visualization that I like to use, although it's not a very nice one, is we all got to see the 9/11 towers go down into their own footprint. They collapsed. Shoom. Well, that's a good visualization for what happens with perception. When I cancel the what drives my pained perception, i.e., it shows me it's about somebody else, but the pain that's being generated is in my own tissue structure, and I'm keeping that unconscious. That when I cancel the goal, that construct collapses just like the 9/11 towers did into their own footprint. Now I have access to my own unconscious dynamics. And it's the only tool I know in the world that if you consistently, persistently use it, you will consistently, persistently uncover your own unconscious dynamics and clean them out.
So that essentially this is assessing and then the addressing. Is there a step 2, step 3 to that? That's kind of.
Well, yeah, actually, step 2 and step 3 are outlined. What you do is you go back to our original radio show, which was in 2011, and then you start listening 5 days a week for the last 15 years, and you'll get step 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's the only thing the conversation's ever been about. Every tool we teach, the original, worksheet, the original forgiveness process that I started with, and the book Why Is This Happening to Me Again was the core of this work. And from there, it opened to, well, gee, I've got this conflict in relationships, and I've been telling Bill what's wrong with him, and now I realize that I need to communicate differently. So that became the workshop communication. Did you hear what I think I said? Now, instead of telling Bill how he's such an SOB because of what he did to me, I'm going to say to Bill, Bill, when you did thus and so, that really brought a lot of rage up in me. And I realized I need to heal my rage. And I notice I'm holding my breath. So now I've uncovered my rage that I've put into and literally constructed my brain's image of Bill out of. And I get to touch into my own rage. And now I realize that, holy Christmas, every time this moves in me, I hold my breath. Oh, so now what I'm going to go into is still point breathing. I'm going to actually breathe into this. And, I realize that all this unkindness that I've been projecting into my brain's image of Bill is what I've been doing to Bill and other people all my life. I'm the one who's, we actually read a quote. I don't even remember who it was from last week, but the essence of the quote or the bottom line that it came down to, what if I'm the one that is in need of the alms of my own presence of love? What if I'm the one in my own unconscious hiding from myself that needs what I think somebody else is supposed to give me? And I need to open to it and heal that in me. So each tool, we've got now, I don't even know, 20 different workshops. Each one grew out of that original forgiveness and seeing that, there are many directions that it needs to go in. And the whole conversation, literally for the last 15 years, 5 days a week, an hour to 2 hours a day, has been, what do you do with that when it surfaces?
Well, thank you for answering a simple question.
Delighted. And by the way, I'll just, if it feels like, gee, I don't quite get this yet, or I'm not sure about this, I'll just say that from the day that I created my first worksheet on the forgiveness process and started to teach it in Why Is This Happening to Me Again? From that day, I taught the idea of canceling goals for 35 years before I understood what I was just able to explain to you. Literally. I mean, I taught it because actually, when I first touched into the Aramaic idea of forgiveness, it was like, yeah, so what? And I was doing other work, and occasionally I would bring that into the conversation. And over a period of time, I had people come back to me saying, I've been doing that canceling goals thing. That's really powerful. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. And as I paid more attention to it, that became the focal point, literally, of my life's work. And it took me working full time. And there are times when I did that in the early days where I did that Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop literally 3 times in a day. I did that 4-hour workshop 3 times one time. I was in Arizona and working with the government there, and I went to the police department, and I went to their educational department, I went to their city hall and did that workshop 3 times. And so that's how intensely I worked with it before I finally was able to explain, oh, why would I do such a silly thing as cancel a perfectly good goal? Because if I load that goal in my mind, it's using my dissociated content to build my brain's image of the world and everything I look at. And I think that it's out there and that they're the one that are making me feel it. And the truth is that I'm the one who's feeling it. It's inside of me, and I've been projecting it. I've been hiding it from myself. So if it takes a little time to really grasp the whole concept of canceling goals, feel comfortable with that. It took me a long time to be able to explain why on earth would I do such a thing? I mean, that's silly until you really understand how the mind works.
So since I'm dense, I'll use in my own life right now, I am trying to build up my own garage. And it's a goal that I have to do. It's constructive, but it brings about all these emotions, right? And so that's essentially what you're trying to get down to. So why would I want to cancel that goal for something that has to get done? So
let's use an example. So here I am. I've got these boards that I need to nail together.
There you go.
And I've got this goal because I'm going to get this garage done. And in doing it, up comes my rage. Why would I want to cancel that goal? Because probably that hammer is going to end up on my thumb if I don't clean up my own mind.
Definitely the hammer's going to end up on your thumb. Definitely.
Right. So I want to clean up the anger so that I get back to a mind that is in harmony with my highest function. And I'm going to have the intuitive sense and the intellectual sense to keep my thumb out of the way of the hammer. Whereas otherwise, in rage, I mean, you look at what people do to themselves.
So again, you may set down a goal and then come back to it once you are in a different frame of mind, is what I'm hearing.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't mean I'm never going to finish that or achieve that goal. It's a temporary thing that I do. Once I complete, let's say if I've got rage around a particular goal, once I clean the rage out, and this is still something I want to accomplish, I go back and load the goal, but I go back and I'm able to achieve the goal from a mind that has sane, conscious guidance in it, connected and appropriate information rather than corrupt data that keeps leading me to screw it up.
It's been cleaned.
Yeah, there's nothing. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say it's been cleaned. What's the word? Shebag, aphesis. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And then go back and reestablish the goal. Yeah. This is still something I want to accomplish. Because I cancel the goal doesn't mean I want to don't want to accomplish the result. It's a step that I take in order to do my own healing work so that I really truly can accomplish the result and do it competently and correctly.
So in another sense, I need to put this on pause. I need to clean up my act, and once I've cleaned up my act, I may then pick back up my arms for the same role. Okay.
Absolutely. But I'm going to keep my thumb safe when I do it with a mind that's freed of that old dissociated hostility and fear.
Bingo.
Got it. Cool. Great question. Thank you for that. Thank you for the ferreting it out. That's exactly what, it's the core of it. So delighted to have your questioning mind on the team. That's one of the biggest things we need in this show. So thank you.
And I put in the chat room, you can put it in a planner, but only set goals for what you can accomplish in your next waking period. And I thought of, like, our son is in the process of remodeling their downstairs to make a playroom. Well, he couldn't do that in a 24-hour period, but he could plan, tomorrow I'm going to put up the sheetrock. Then put it in the planner for the next day after that I'm going to, do the plaster or whatever, or sand it or paint it or whatever. So you don't have the goal to completely do your garage in the next 24 hours. Just make a goal for what you can do in that waking period, and the rest of it can go in a planner. That doesn't mean you've set it as a goal.
So
And the reason for that,
go ahead.
the reason for that is because every time you load a goal in the mind, you create a stress. We actually do a workshop called Getting the Stress You Need. And people talk about stress as some kind of a bad thing. No, stress is life-giving. Without stress, we would all be dead. You can't live without stress. So knowing how you create a stress by setting a goal. And that stress is what motivates your mind to go to work and show you how to achieve the goal. And if you overload yourself with stress, then you lose resources. A good comparison is, let's imagine I open my computer and I open my word processing program and I do some writing, and then I think, oh, I got to get an email, and I open my email program and computer's rocking, rolling along, and I go, well, I'm going to take a check and just see if Charlie's available on Facebook. He'll know the answers. So I open Facebook, and then I open my calculator, and then I open my CAD program, and the computer crashes. Why did the computer crash? I had too many programs open. It used up all the resources. It runs slow as molasses, and it doesn't work very well. Well, the human mind is exactly the same thing. This is exactly what Yeshua was teaching 2,000 years ago when he said, sufficient for the day are the evils thereof. Now, from the Greek misinterpretation, you wouldn't have any clue what that statement means. For sufficient for the day are the evils thereof. But in Aramaic, the word evil, and there are a couple different translations, but one of them is unripened or incomplete. So what he was saying is, don't set goals that go beyond your next waking period. So if all you can do is project 1, 2, and 3 in the next waking period, then you set 3 goals. I know that you've got 10 projects to do, but if you load goal number 4, project 5, project 6, up to project 10, all of a sudden people are in overload and they wonder why they're procrastinating. They're procrastinating because they don't have any resources left to function. It's the same thing as a computer crashing.
So you would recommend doing what in that instance?
Cancel every goal except for what you can accomplish reasonably in your next waking period. So as Jeanie said, yeah, I know I'm going to have to sand this, but if I've got the goal in my mind, if I say, okay, I'm putting drywall up today and I got to sand and paint this, but it's going to take me 18 hours to put the wallboard up, and I'm working on, geez, I got to get to the hardware store and get the sanding, and then I have to go to the paint store now, and I'm not even going to get the drywall hung because my mind's working on the other goals, the other stresses I created. So you cancel everything except what you're going to do in your next waking period. And as Jeanie said, I've got a calendar here, and tomorrow, paint store, and and I need to pick up a sanding block. But if I put paint store and sanding block in my mind while I've got 18 hours of drywall to do, I'm going to tend to not be paying full attention because my mind's going to be nagging at me. People go to bed at night and they say, oh, my mind just doesn't stop. Why doesn't it? Because you've given it a job to do. You've given it a load of goals. And so it's trying to do its job. Cancel the goals and you sleep like a baby. cancel the goals you're not going to achieve in the next waking period, and you have all your resources available, and you're going to be the most capable you can possibly be to achieve the result that you want. That's mind goal management. That's something we cover in that workshop, getting the stress you need, and in our laws of living course.
Mind goal.
Mind goal management. Yeah, if you jump on the website, if you go to whyagain.org, in the upper left-hand corner, there's a Start Here button. If you click there and then scroll down, you'll come to a link that says Other Worksheets. And if you go in there, you'll see the mind goal management sheet. It's pretty self-explanatory. But that's what, and we explain that in the workshop, Getting the Stress You Need.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. Hope that all makes sense. And any other refinements? The slightest question, we're delighted to hear from you. Any other thoughts?
Not for me. You've give a couple extra stones to jump on, so I will ask when I have new info. Thank you, sir.
Cool. Delighted. Thank you. Blessings. All right, Miss Celinda, you had your hand up there a little bit ago. Good to see your sweet face. Well, okay, I can't see your face, but nice to have you here.
Not quite. I think it looks a little black, if I remember correctly, or something. But anyway, I had one thought about what you just said. Not only am I most likely to not be working on all cylinders with the negative, erroneous information in place driving my goal, but I will also most likely, when I hit my thumb or fall off the ladder or whatever, is I would most likely be punishing myself from the unconscious self-judgment and self-hatred and self-anger, etc., that I would be feeling towards myself.
Yeah. And all those feelings are just things that are up to be forgiven. Free ourselves from it.
Yep.
So I'm with you, right on. How have you been? We've missed you recently.
Oh, it's been very busy here because we have lots of medical appointments around our eyes and trying to get on the Oregon Health Plan, which took an immense amount of time. And also, but I was very grateful because all of the representatives except one have been so patient and so willing to deal with my incomprehensibilities with documents. So that came out really well.
Okay. I had heard there was a Senior Olympics going on somewhere out west, and I thought maybe you guys were off doing the Senior Olympics because I know Larry has done that.
No, Larry is kind of in rehab right now, self-rehab, because he did a face plant over at the high school when he was going up a ramp that had an unexpected step in the middle of it. And it wasn't
bless his heart.
Anyway.
Oh,
yeah, right. And he was saying goodbye to somebody going by in a car, and he went splat and gave himself a beautiful he came home with blood running from his mouth.
Oh, bless his heart.
So I told he decided to grow a mustache because it hurt too much to shave. I said, "Go do a mustache. I miss your mustaches." So anyway, he's been doing that, but it did kind of mess his knee up a little bit. But he's doing much, much better, and he's going to go try it out in a couple of weeks at an open meet at Hayward Field in Eugene.
Well, make sure he keeps his hand in the abacus and get that knee blood flow and oxygen and repairing.
Yeah, really. So anyway, I would. That's good, and I'm really grateful for your conversation this morning, both with Susan and with Ryan. Because it's spot on. It seems like every time I can get on the show, it's spot on. I mean, what's next? I'm ready, and the value of the worksheets. I still prefer the mental short form with the forgiveness pattern that Tim does because it helps me to focus since I have basically attention deficit. and I just use it. It gets right in, and all this other information that you have, even on the 7th step, which I highly value, but it gets in my way when I'm trying to focus on what are we doing here, you know. So usually I go for that, although I'm not opposed to doing the 7th step. It's just that pattern along with that mental short form really helps me. I feel like I'm in kindergarten. I love it. So anyway.
Well, that's awesome.
Larry just came in, so I will mute. Oh, he said he's going back out.
Well, tell him we
So
are
anyway,
extending love in his
I'm-
direction for his healing with that face plant
All right.
and the
Thank
knee.
you. I will do it.
All right.
Well, his face looks great now, and his knee looks great, but he says he still has twinges and here and there. So we're doing well. Thank you.
All right.
And I'm just going to say, I really appreciate your touching on the goals again, and I really appreciate your reference to yourself and how it took you 35 years to just even understand what you were teaching. And isn't that the reason why we teach?
Oh, yeah. We teach what we most need to learn. And here I am still teaching forgiveness.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad. I'm really grateful. And with Susan, I'm really appreciative of all of you, all of us, every one of us, and all of the radio shows that we participate in, and also in Tim's support group. The diversity of all of us is really helpful, because I get so stuck in my point of view. I get so stuck in the way I see things. And it all comes down to safety. You were talking about so I can. Jeanie was interjecting about so I can. So I can will almost always be safe. Mm-hmm. Will almost always be safe. And and I could do a goal right now. I could do a worksheet right now with you if you like. And I'm going to close some windows here. So I realize that I have resentment and I have revenge thoughts that I never realized I had. But just recently I've come up with Larry, in 3 times in our relationship, has said "fuck you" to me, and that one is so threatening for me that I was fantasizing on. That's it. 3 strikes, you're out. And I've been fantasizing on that, and to me, that is my higher self telling me, you need to do a worksheet on this, so that whatever you choose to do is love. And it's really irrational at the moment, from my point of view, to be doing this number, because our relationship is so much better. Why am I going back to this?
Well, here's why you're going back to it.
Over a year.
Here's why you're going back to it.
It has to do with safety. Yeah. Go ahead. Shoot.
My offering would be you're at the next level of vitality. So you're able to see the next layer that you need to forgive.
Yep.
So here's my thought. We're over time right now, but tomorrow, could we make an appointment to do that worksheet? And if Larry could be available, if Larry could be available tomorrow, what I'd like to do, and everybody would be able to have it then, is walk you through doing an ortho-bionomy session on his knee, which may resolve his knee issue. Totally.
Ortho-bionomy?
Ortho-bionomy, yeah.
Okay. I will give him that opportunity, and I will let him do that first. He is very resistant to me telling him anything about the Aramaic gospel. He's decided in his mind that
this will have nothing to do with the Aramaic gospel. It's a practice that if you want to do it for him and he's interested in doing it, will probably take about 5 minutes, and we'll walk you through a physical process for probably eradicating all the twinges and injury in his knee. Probably.
Cool. Is this something that you can
minutes.
use on a shoulder too? Because he's been having
Absolutely.
shoulder issues.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
maybe he could work with me on my osteoporosis and my cataract. I'm set up for appointments for a cataract surgery evaluation, and I'm still hopeful. I'm not resistant to getting the cataracts removed now like I was before. I don't want to come from fear anymore. Actually, let me rephrase that. I want to come from love and from trust and acceptance that there are some things we don't get to heal in one lifetime, possibly. But I would still prefer to be able to break through to a place where I could do my own healing on my cataracts and just dissolve them. And it has a lot to do with stress, dear heart.
Absolutely.
Both of those things. I'm overloading my goals, and I perceive myself juggling 2,000 balls all at once, and how am I going to manage to pull out a worksheet on managing goals when I can't even get the sleep I need at night because I'm up too late doing what I consider essential steps. So it's stuff. So it's all about prioritizing and paying attention.
Sounds like it's about canceling some goals and taking care of yourself.
Well, let's discuss that maybe tomorrow or
Wednesday. Sounds good.
Or maybe even Wednesday would be better because I'll be in the support group. And,
okay, you just text me
but
whichever works.
For sure. Tomorrow we'll work if Larry's available for the ortho-bionomy.
Ortho-bionomy. The most extreme case I can share with you about ortho-bionomy is actually when it was being taught at Heartland years ago. It was a fellow who had was moving a boat that was on a trailer, and he had his hand on the hitch of the trailer, and the trailer ran away with him, and it caught him between a tree and the hitch, and his thumb was all swollen up. It was a mess. And I did ortho-bionomy on it. I mean, it was literally swollen, red, obviously very traumatized. And I did ortho-bionomy on him. It was the first time I had done it. Jeanie and I were students in the ortho-bionomy class. And by that evening, you could look at that man's hand and there was no sign of any injury whatsoever. So we'll teach that tomorrow, and then everybody will have access to that. All right, young lady, you have a blessed one.
And maybe you can share that tomorrow to Larry. That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
All right, we'll do it. All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.